All right.
Okay.
What are we doing? Let's do this. Hey, yeah. Woo. All right, Miss Jessica, Portland Business Journal fellow, woman of influence. Let's get right into it. People want to know, when is the ribbon cutting? When is it actually going to open?
When you all show up.
We're here. Let's go.
Yeah, okay. A year from now, mid-April.
Is that good enough for y'all?
Mid-April.
Well,
that is our timeline. You know, with construction projects, you never know, but we are working with urgency and ambition, and we hope to invite you in next year around this time.
I'll be there. Meet your darling Jessica. So let's go back to 4:30 on that Tuesday. Who's there, and what is happening in that moment that you've dreamt of probably 50 million different times?
Maybe we have a better dance routine. Really, the market is going to be a place for community connection. It's going to be a place of commerce. It's a place of education, of civic connection. And that is what the market is. And so when people come in, there are a variety of things they're going to experience. We want to see people shopping on a Tuesday at 4:30, buying their eggs, buying their groceries, showing up after work and making their way through the market. We want people connecting through food and a love of Oregon food. We also want education. We're both moms. I want every kid in Oregon to walk through that market and feel that sense of civic pride.
Let's go! Come on, round of applause for that.
So I want every young person to understand the power of Oregon agriculture, our bounty. We're going to have rooftop gardens where kids can learn how to grow food. And then in the basement of the market, we will have a teaching kitchen where we will offer nutrition classes to kids. So on a Tuesday at 4:30, I hope all of that is happening and more. And this place will be successful because of everyone in this state and everyone in this room.
What I love about that is that we're not just thinking about ourselves, but we're thinking about building the next generation. So what have you borrowed from the other markets around the world that make you be like, we are going to make this great because?
Good question. I love visiting public markets. It's one of my favorite things, and there are great public markets all over the country. You're Canadian. You have amazing public markets. Granville, I'm going there next month.
So
I can't
good.
wait.
So good.
But what we've borrowed is this sense of place. Great public markets are rooted in the place they're from. And that's what we've borrowed, is when you go into a market in Vancouver, British Columbia, you want to see, what are people eating? What are people doing? What are people growing? What are people making there? So that's what we are taking, and we are giving it its own Oregon lens.
So when you look at this, what are we going to make distinctly ourselves? Because in Portland, we like to keep things weird, right? Are we still there? So what are we going to make uniquely ourselves that makes, you look at Pikes, and I don't like to mention Seattle, because in sports, it's just that, but looking at those great markets, what are we going to take that really make us Portland?
Well, first and foremost, this is about Oregon's bounty. So everything in the market we hope will be a love letter and a reflection of Oregon.
Love it.
And it's really going to come from the vendors. So what is the next flying fish? I don't know. That's for our vendors to kind of ideate on and get creative. We kind of joke, put a berry on it instead of put a bird on it. So we're trying to figure out what is that thing that becomes our shtick. And I believe that culture and that food theater will organically come from our vendor community.
Make sure you guys vote on what you want it to be the Portland thing of, because I'm sure Jessica will be listening. All right, So let's talk about this project, because it's finally here, and it's becoming real now. And I think one of the most important things is, why does it feel like this is the time?
I love this question. I truly believe that, first and foremost, the people who wanted to bring a public market back to Portland have given so much to this vision. And I feel like that has influenced every part of the work I've done, is really being true to what a public market in Portland and in Oregon can be. I also know that it's an evolution, and every single day the project is evolving as it becomes more inevitable. So for me, it's this moment of reflection of it. Why now? It's the perfect place. We are steps away from Pioneer Square.
Yeah.
So, even though this is trademarked, Portland's kitchen next to Portland's living room is really a powerful value proposition. Yeah. Additionally, we have the right people at the table to make this happen. We have the right partners, and it's the right time. We need a win in our city, and it's not just the city.
Yes!
So there's something very symbolic about creating a once-in-a-generation civic institution. And if you've traveled around the world, many of these markets have been around thousands of years. So we have this huge opportunity to do something that will outlast every one of us and be a place that people can go to and feel authentic to Oregon.
I really connect with you on that, of like doing something that will outlast all of us. Because let's be honest, how often do you actually get to come to work and know that this is the first time it will ever be? And you talk about generational, and I know we had questions pre-planned, but Jessica knew I was going to throw some new ones in there. You talk about what it feels like and how this is the time now, but what are you as a woman learning in this moment? Because you've been in this business for a long time. You've done so many other things. And like you said, this is the time now for Portland, right? This is going to be game-changing. People will start seeing what we love about our city. But what are you, as a mom, a woman, a game changer, learning in this moment?
Patience. Patience. And being flexible with the ever-changing multi-dimensional project that I'm leading. We have so many stakeholders that are involved, and exercising patience and understanding this is a startup and it's going to get messy, and I am, wanting to make sure we deliver this project on time, on budget to this community, but it's an exercise in patience and resilience. And I just, every day, look at it as an opportunity to untangle messes, to stay, as I mentioned in my Women of Influence interview, delusionally optimistic, which that has served me in my life. And those who know me know that's very true. But this belief that anything is possible and we can do it, but it's going to require everybody stepping up.
What was the turning point when it went from delusionary optimistic to actually, this is inevitable?
Yeah. When we found our home, I think that was the big piece. We found our home, and within a few months of finding our home, we were able to purchase the building. And that sense of permanence, of place, was that game-changing moment.
So give her a round of applause. So I know when we all go into some things and it's almost transformational, we learn a lot, but as everybody in this audience, you learn, but what are you unlearning that you have to retraining your mind as you enter this unknown?
Not being patient? Is that okay? I think that this isn't a linear project. I think that there's anticipation is a big part of it. And so part of what I'm unlearning is that sense of control. Everything is going to go as planned, and being flexible, constantly being flexible. There's lots of pivoting. We had hoped that the building that we would have opened in fall of 2026. And through the demolition process, we discovered that we didn't just have an old Rite Aid. Many of you have maybe been there, and you can see it on the screen, but we didn't just have an old Rite Aid. When you stripped away all of the Rite Aid and many decades of materials that probably are toxic, we uncovered this Oregon timber structure. And that timber structure with the ceilings, 100-year-old ceilings, and these incredible Douglas fir beams, that influenced us changing the entire facade of the building because we wanted it to be true to Oregon. And it was an opportunity, but it was also a huge shift in timelines and other things. So I think there's pieces of this that we want the community to feel very connected to it, and we know that there's going to be moments in time where we have to make decisions, and we just, that's hard, you know. It's a vulnerability in a leadership position that I'm adapting to.
Vulnerability is key in leadership, and that's why people follow you. And speaking of following, like right now in Portland, downtown Portland, people's like, "Ooh, it's reckless." Mm-hmm. Why do you say this is not reckless, but the smart and right thing to do?
Yeah. So we're going to go back to 1990.
Woohoo! Girl, who did your hair?
So, hey, I'm a Blazer believer. 1990, I grew up in Silverton, Oregon, a rural community, heart of the Willamette Valley. And I remember this moment in time. I was 11 years old, and I remember this moment in time so clearly. But more importantly, I remember the feel I had of being in Oregon, being in Silverton, and watching our Blazers win the Western Conference Championship. Mm-hmm. And there was a moment where the entire state, you knew every house was cheering our team on. Mm-hmm. I believe that we will get to that point again, where everybody will be cheering Portland on from across the state. Mm-hmm. And so for me, this is personal. It's something very deeply a part of what I believe in and what I want to spend my life doing. I also, like you, have a daughter. She goes to Lincoln High School. She's a freshman. I want her to walk into the market one day and say, "This is Oregon. This is something I can be proud of." And so that's why I don't think it's reckless. I think it's urgent. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait for other projects to follow this one, because the market's not going to solve everything. Yeah. We're a piece of what the future can look like with this kind of investment.
What's misunderstood right now? Yes, give her a round of applause. You know, I can't wait to see you with your hat with your fire jersey this summer.
Yep.
We're going to have to redo this haircut.
I feel like it's the original Bieber. No?
It is. Look, she was trending back then. So what? Skeptics, there's so many skeptics out there. It's so much misunderstood. Do you want to talk about what people are just not getting right about our city?
I think that, as I mentioned, why this isn't reckless, I believe in Oregon, but more importantly, I believe in the people of the city. And I believe that the creative class, the food, beverage makers, creatives, artists, it's that creative class that's going to bring the city back. And for public markets, one thing people don't realize is there is a long history of public markets revitalizing neighborhoods and cities and communities. Mm-hmm. And we have the playbook. We're not recreating something. There's a proven track record of how public markets can change communities and become that epicenter for food and beverage and connection. Not the epicenter of women's sports. We're already that.
Girl, you know what I love about this? Like, the only important, right? Do we have the epicenter for women's sports? Do we have the epicenter we're creating for food? There's so many exciting things going on here, but people want to talk about the bad. This is awesome. This is exciting. This is Portland.
Yeah.
Did I cut you off there?
No. I love it.
100+ applicants, limited spaces. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot going on. And when you're building something great and exceptional, you have to have your non-negotiables. Yeah. What are your non-negotiables?
There were a few, but the two that I will mention, one, the vendors had to be rooted in Oregon. Mm-hmm. They really had to put that as a big part of their business case, is sourcing locally, sourcing from across the state, and have some connection to this place. Mm-hmm. You know, we are not accepting a chain restaurant from the Midwest. That's not what this market is about. It's about creating economic opportunity for vendors. The other non-negotiable was we want to ensure that every vendor is successful. We don't want to set up a vendor for not having success. So for the hundreds of vendors that shared their interest, we were very clear that it's not a no, it's a not yet. that there are many pathways into the market. And so not every product is right for a 7-day-a-week market with 40 permanent stalls. We really wanted to be clear that 40 permanent stalls, 40 small businesses launched, thousands of Oregon products. But what's the pathway to getting all those products in is something we're working on.
I mean, when you talk about doing what's never done, there's always, you have to like shape yourself in a way you've never done it before. And there's hard truths as that happens. What are some of the hardest things that we're not really talking about, or you actually don't get to talk about?
This is a startup. This is doing everything at once. People often use the analogy building the plane and flying it at the same time.
Oh, I know about that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the hard truth is we're doing everything at once. And so there's raising money, there's a construction project that's major, we're working with Public Works. If anyone's ever done a construction project, you have to think of everything from water sewer lines to PBOT. There are so many stakeholders in this project, and making sure that we're communicating, that we are being good neighbors, and most important, that we are being good stewards of the space for our future vendor community that we're creating.
I love it because I think most leaders in Portland understand they're stewards of the city and stewards of the space. So when we look at all the things that is happening, at 3 a.m. in the morning, probably like me, you're up and you're thinking, right? Mm-hmm. So
As you know.
We should just text each other.
Yeah, exactly.
What is keeping you up at night these days? Because like you just literally said all the different things. That could be it. But I'm sure there's something a bit more personal.
Yeah. These are my parents. Sorry, Mom and Dad, for putting this up here. But this is my parents. You can guess, in the 80s. My parents were small business owners. They had a booth at the Portland Saturday Market. They're craftspeople. I come from a long line of merchants and makers. And part of what I hold that is the responsibility for our vendors in the market. And we are investing in them, but they're also taking a risk with us. Mm-hmm. And I think I hold that responsibility because I grew up in that environment. I grew up in an environment of a small family business. There were times where there was, it felt like financial insecurity. Mm-hmm. You would have good days at the market, you would have really bad days at the market. And I was very aware of that as a young person. Mm-hmm. And, through hard work and resilience, my parents helped me go to college, a first-generation college student. And so when I think of our vendors, I think about what this opportunity means for them and what we can all do as a community to support that. And I see our market not just as a place for those vendors to survive. Yeah. It's about thriving. And that is the key to this. And that's the responsibility I hold. And that's why when timelines shift, it's not just a timeline, it's people being able to set up their booths and make money.
What do you want? You talk about your parents. What do you want? I didn't ask her this question before. What do you want your daughter to say about Mom?
That I'm a badass.
Yeah. How about when people walk through it the first time? Like, because obviously we both have daughters, and we want them to know that their new normal was ours.
Yeah.
But when this audience walks through that crowd and enters the market, what do you want them to think, and what do you want them to feel?
Yeah. I want them to feel a sense of civic pride. I want them to look around and be in awe of everything that comes from our state. I want them to have that sensory experience of smelling the smells of the different food, the food theater, what's being made on site. I want them to feel a sense of exploration. And I also want them to eat a lot. I love going to a good public market when you walk around and you can't decide what you want to eat. And so you eat like 5 different booths. That to me is a really good public market. So I just want that sense of civic pride and look at what we do. We're one of the few places in the world that grows what we grow. Yeah. Over 200 unique agricultural products. That's amazing. Yes. And we are on par with some of the best food regions in the world. And this is an opportunity to really highlight that and to make that a part of our narrative. And there are many people out there in Oregon right now who are doing that. And I think we become a place where we can house a lot of that, and all of these narratives can help support this big vision.
We are lucky to have you. Did you want to talk about this?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to go into things, but you know what? I know one thing is whenever you have pictures of family, you shut up. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is James Beard. And one of the things that people have asked me a lot is, what would you want James Beard to think about this market? And I love that question, because James Beard is James Beard because of Oregon. Mm-hmm. And if he were to walk in the market, I would want him to feel like it was a homecoming, that it was a place where he saw all of the different foods and all of the different things we grow and raise and fish and forage, that he sees that represented in this place. And that it reminds him of his early years going to the public markets of Portland, because we have had public markets before with his mother. Yeah. And his mother, Elizabeth Beard, really taught him what he grew to build a career from and his lifelong passion. So I hope that he would walk in the market and feel that sense of homecoming, and it would evoke really beautiful food memories for him.
I think what you are building, he will. And homecoming is fitting. We'll just continue on.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Jessica.